So it has been 4 months since I suffered a stroke, and I realised that while I've continued making YouTube videos on this channel, I've never actually provided any form of update as to how I've gone through the recovery phase of a pretty full-on experience, an experience that I obviously didn't see coming. Now, I won't be providing any context as to, I guess, what went down 4 months ago when I suffered the stroke, because I have documented that story here on YouTube already. So if you are looking for any context, there will be a link in the description below. You can go and check that video out and then come back to this one. But this one today is just more of a check-in with you guys. I feel like you're a large part of my life, whether you know it or not. This YouTube channel is such a large part of my life that I feel like these updates are really important to do. And I never wanted to neglect you guys once I'd spoken about the fact that it had happened to me. I wanted to, at least at some point down the line, give you guys a bit of an update as to how I'm feeling and how I'm going, both physically and mentally. So let's take it all back to, I guess, when I made the video last, which was probably a week post having a stroke and being in hospital for 6 days and then coming home and choosing to turn the camera on and give you guys an update. The recovery process has been really slow. It's a lot slower than I anticipated because physically I am totally fine, right? There's no real physical abnormalities or any symptoms regarding muscle movement or balance and things like that could definitely have happened if I was unlucky. But I'm fortunate to have got away with it, and I'm in a really lucky position where physically you would look at me and you would chat to me and you wouldn't even know that I'd experienced that 4 months ago. But probably the biggest thing that I have been dealing with over the last 4 months has been just fatigue. Low energy levels in the sense of going out and doing something, socially, for instance, is a really good example. I went to a wedding last Saturday, and it was a 12-hour wedding day, as it always is. It's always a big, long day, but I know my old self would have been able to go through that and enjoy the experience, and maybe you've been a little bit tired, the next day. But this time around, experiencing that for the very first time, I was absolutely drained. Obviously no alcohol or anything like that at this stage. So it was just me there socializing with people and interacting with people, which I found to be incredibly actually overwhelming. And definitely felt a little bit sad in the sense that I'm still not quite right in that sense. But I've got to keep telling myself that it's only 4 months, and that's a very short time period, between having a stroke and recovering completely from a stroke. So yeah, that was a bit of a realization recently, and we're actually off to Fiji tomorrow, or the next day, Wednesday, in a couple of days' time. You're probably watching this while I'm in Fiji for another wedding. With all of Kate's family, Kate's brother's getting married, and we're going over there to celebrate that and spend an entire week over there. And I'm just very conscious now, after that experience at the wedding last week, as to what an entire week will be. With family engagements and things like that. So I am going to really try and kind of check out a little bit and take a breather, or lie down, or have some alone time, because I know that social interaction is going to be a really full-on experience for me. So it's kind of good that I've gone through it to a small degree about a week ago. I guess the process of it, in Fiji at least, will be under a level of understanding about how I am probably going to be dealing with it. So yeah, that's been the biggest thing. The biggest symptom that I've experienced from this has been a great deal of fatigue. And it's also kind of eaten into my my workload as well, because I obviously can't put the output of working as hard as I have previously. So I've taken the foot off the pedal a little bit, and I've put Kate into assisting. She's been doing listings and shipping with my eBay business. If you're brand new to this channel and you've got no idea about these tubs behind me, I'm an eBay seller. And I've got this YouTube channel, and I document and educate people on how to sell on eBay. Kate, my girlfriend, has been super supportive the entire time, pre-stroke and post-stroke, and there was always plans for her to get involved and help out. And I just remember being in that hospital bed, writing out a bit of a to-do list about how I was going to approach recovery and approach my new lifestyle post that experience. And a large part of it was getting help on a work sense and not working every single task, on my own accord. So to be able to have got her in, and for her to be able to do 20 hours a week and alleviate all of the workload on the eBay side of things, has allowed me to just put my work and effort in, and energy into the YouTube side of things. So that's been really good. But it has obviously, from a fatigue aspect, reduced the amount of hours that I'm able to contribute and the amount of good work hours I'm able to do on a daily basis. But For the first 2 months, I was really doing nothing because I couldn't. There was no advice from any doctors that I could go out and do too much, other than maybe a 20-minute walk each day. So that's what I really made sure that I fulfilled and did each day. I went for that walk, and I found that to be really good for the mental side of things, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. But going for that walk to clear my head, to come back and start my day and not rush myself into a working day, I think was really, really helpful, and still is, because I'm still out there walking every day, grabbing your morning coffee and starting the day slow. I found that to be pretty important. But I was waiting around for 2 months because I had a procedure that was booked in for heart surgery, and you're probably wondering, what caused the stroke? And for me, it was deemed to be a PFO, so it was a hole in the heart that everybody has from birth, and then 1 in 4 people don't have that hole close up, and I was one of those people. So I was one of the 25%, and they went in for surgery, and they put this little like mesh. They went through the hole, put some mesh on, then came back through the hole, put some more mesh on, and that ultimately closed up the hole that was in the heart, just with some fabric, basically. It was a day procedure. I was under for 45 minutes to an hour. They didn't cut me open or anything. It actually went through my groin, and there was a big tube that went through my body, and then it obviously just transitioned through the heart, and it was able to patch things up that way. So it was very non-invasive, which was great. It meant the recovery was pretty easy, considering it was a heart procedure. But again, it just meant that I was in a new window now of not only recovering from the stroke, but I was also recovering now from a heart procedure. And that's been about 2 months ago. So I'm in this point now where I'm just kind of itchy feet. I'm really wanting to kind of get going and do something, and not just be sedentary and sit at home and only contribute at work and not socialize as much. I'm wanting to kind of push the envelope a little bit and actually start to do things. But I haven't had any clearance yet, because the standard waiting time for the PFO closure that I had is about 3 months. So that's September, October, November, probably late November, early December is when I'm able to go and exercise again, for the very first time. It'll be 6 to 7 months of inactivity, which has really done a lot to my mental health. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I want to talk about in this video today, that I think goes a little bit unnoticed and unspoken about, potentially. I think a lot of us go through these big life experiences, and it really does take a massive toll, more than anything, on your mental health. And as much as the fatigue element has been there, it's probably been exacerbated, is that a word? Around my mental health being in a really poor state. I'm known that it's in a poor state, and it's very hard to get yourself out of it, as much as we even may realize that you're in a bad way mentally. I haven't been able to do anything to get myself out of it, which has been the biggest limiting thing for me over the last 4 months. And I think that's why I want to go and train again, because what I've realized about myself is I've always used running predominantly, but the gym as well to an extent, but running has been something that I never realized was such a core part of my life. From a mental health perspective, I would go for a run to clear my head after a work day, or maybe something had gone on in my life on a personal level. I would just go and run it out. And that was so therapeutic for me. It was like active meditation, where I'd just put some tunes in and I'd just go run. And the harder I ran, I felt like the harder I could run out of my problems. You often see that with runners. They try to run away from their problems, but they never can. Well, for me, it was at least therapeutic to get that separation of that mental clutter by being able to go out and go for a run. So when you're predisposed to just dealing with things that way, to then have a massive life experience hit you and then to not be able to use your coping mechanism, it's completely broken down my ability to manage what I've been able to go through over the last 4 months from a mental standpoint. So I've just been sitting here in my head going, man, what can you do to escape? Like, where do you escape and go to a place where you feel not stressed? Because stress has been super high. Cortisol levels in my body, I don't know what they are, but I'm sure they're through the roof. It just feels like they are. My body is out of sync because I'm mentally fried. I feel like I'm completely out of whack. Now, I have seen a psychologist in the early stages of the first few weeks. Unfortunately, it was just one psychologist, and nothing against her, but it was just not a comparable sort of a relationship where I was able to get significant benefit out of it. Absolutely nothing against her. It's just you got to spend a while to find the right psychologist, and she wasn't it. And then, to my own detriment, I probably didn't look into it enough to try and seek out another one, so I kind of stopped. So I know that I need to get back to that. But yeah, that's one thing that I've tried to do to work on it, work on a way to kind of clear my thoughts and clear my head. But I lent into, for about a month or 6 weeks there, food. Food was my coping mechanism without even realizing it. My body had just, well, my decision making had just gravitated towards, I'll just eat, because how good is eating? Eating's a nice, comforting thing. A lot of us do. A lot of us love to eat. I love to eat. But I can't eat the level of food that I used to eat when I was training every single day and running every single day and burning all of those calories. It meant I could eat all of those calories. And then I found myself continuing in the recovery of trying to eat that same amount of calorie. And I found myself starting to put on body weight. And I was like, man, now I feel even more terrible because I'm putting on body weight, I'm sloppy, I'm in a bad headspace, I can't do anything even though I want to do something. It's funny because none of this is anything relating to do with the stroke itself, like the brain injury, the rest of it, whatever the case may be. It's just the way you choose to handle it and deal with it, and then having that be restricted and pulled away from you and you can't actually attend to it and deal with it the way that you want to. So I kind of had to realize that that food was going to be something that I had to limit myself on, because I was starting to push the envelope a little bit too much. And I pulled myself back to 1,800 calories. That was sort of a goal for me, to try and just stick to that. I used MyFitnessPal. I stuck to that goal of 1,800 calories, and that's definitely put me in a better position. But I've also looked into heavy supplementation as well. Supplements were never something that I ever used to use, ever. But now I've got very health conscious, and the anxiety and the stress that I've got, it's sort of health related. It's health anxiety. It's fearing the next episode that could potentially happen. Not that it ever would, or it's low case, and there's really no chance of it happening, at least not to the same standard as the general population. But in my head, I just stress that it could be happening in the next 5 minutes. And that's a really repetitive loop of thought that I just can't get out of my head. So as a counteract to that, if I can't do anything about it, I can research into it. And I've been doing a bit of research in the sense of supplements. What can you do for heart health? What can you do for brain and cognitive help? So I've just jumped into basic supplements that aren't too significant. I've just had omega-3 tablets. The fish oil, I've been taking that each day. Magnesium, predominantly a magnesium that allows you to sleep a little bit better, because I found post the heart surgery that my sleep has been a little bit impeded. I'm waking up where I used to be a really good heavy sleeper. I'm now just waking up with a lot of anxiety, feeling like my cortisol levels are high at 2, 3 in the morning. Horrible times to be waking up and then not being able to go back to sleep. So the magnesium, I'm looking into I'm trying to find the best form of magnesium for sleep. So if you guys have any recommendations, let me know in the comments below, because I read every comment. But that's been a big one. And then the other big one for cognitive benefit has been creatine. I've seen a lot of studies around 10 to 20 grams a day of creatine, and I've just started to take about 12 grams a day of creatine. I sort of started with 5, and then I've looked and seen the studies. They're not harmful. One of the most studied supplements in the world. So I've really seen that there is cognitive benefits from 10 to 20, at least in the research that I've done. So I felt pretty content to go ahead and do that. But I really want to speak to a naturopath. So if you are a naturopath and you're watching this, I'd love to connect, because I think a naturopath would really help me get a real mix of supplements that could help me feel better. But yeah, I will definitely be seeking a psychologist again. I haven't actually practiced yoga. That was on my list. I really wanted to practice yoga as a form of just calming myself down, but I haven't done that. So there are some things on the list that, as much as I've been here not really doing too much and focusing hard on work, there have been things that I wish I got onto a little bit sooner, and it is things like the yoga and seeing a naturopath and seeing another psychologist that I definitely could have been doing, and I still want to be doing. But that's been the biggest thing for me, is it's just dealing with the mental health side of things. And if you guys are dealing with anything from a mental health perspective yourself, I think the best thing that you could possibly do is to speak up about it, because I've got some really incredible people in my life that have been able to help me just voice my silly thoughts. I'm very, very much aware that what I'm dealing with from a health anxiety perspective and worrying about the next episode that could potentially come over me, it's so much more reassuring and more peace of mind to just put your silly thoughts out there and tell somebody. I shouldn't say silly, because they're not silly. They feel real, right, to the person that's dealing with them, and that's the problem. That's why the thought loop just continues on. It truly feels so real. And I've heard things from people that I've heard people say that the fear of something is far greater than the realization of the fear. So if you actually fear, like when I had the stroke, actually going through the process of the stroke wasn't as bad as my fear of having another stroke. That is almost 10 times worse in my head than actually going through what I went through 4 months ago. But it just feels so real. So it's a really, really hard thing to try and get over. But speaking about it, speaking about how you're feeling, whether you feel silly to talk about it or not, has a massive influence on the way that you ultimately feel post that discussion. So I highly recommend you guys doing that if you're dealing with anything on a mental health standpoint, because it's just one of the most powerful things that you can do, I think. And yet, for some reason, it's a really hard thing to do, which it shouldn't be. And that's why I wanted to make this video today as a bit of an update on how I'm feeling. You know, surgery went well. I'm here now. I'm in this position where I'm about a month away from going and seeing a follow-up on my heart. You know, the assumption is that that's going to have been completely smooth. My heart rate, I'm on my Garmin watch checking my heart rate. There's absolutely nothing. I've got no abnormalities in the sense of how I feel. It's just that fatigue post-stroke that I'm dealing with. So I'm really anticipating that I'm just going to hit the ground running in December, January onwards and really start to pick up my training. And I'm hoping that my training is going to allow my mental health to subside and sort of come back to where it was, which was you know, never perfect, but manageable, and not something I was really stressing too much about. But I'm hoping that over the next couple of months I can get to that point. But it's allowed me to put a lot of time and work into my job and this eBay business. And you know, even over the course of this year and the hurdles that I've had to jump through, we're doing record numbers of revenue on eBay. And this YouTube channel has seen its biggest year of growth, you know, more than ever before. So many people are coming into the channel and you know, hitting the subscribe button and watching all the videos. And you know, I've lent into the 12-week challenge, and I've got this cohort of people that are starting eBay for the very first time, and they're learning the ropes. And we're doing Zoom calls and one-on-one mentoring sessions. And all of my life is now positioned around this 5x3 single car garage. I'm not doing any thrifting. You know, Kate's taking care of all of the eBay stuff, so I'm literally just sitting here, you know, doing my own YouTube sort of work and consulting, you know, on the laptop. So it's been really low effort in the sense that I don't have to go out and run around and pick up heavy boxes of stock, etc. That all sort of comes to me now on private deals. So, you know, being able to deal with this and get through this over the last 4 months has been really supercharged in my ability to have been able to have a job that, you know, allows me to work for myself. So if I need to check out and go and lie on the couch for an hour on any particular day or cut my work day short, I don't have to speak to a boss and clock out and go home and take annual leave or sick pay. As much as I don't have annual leave and sick pay, I'm on my own terms and I can call my own shots. So I'm really, really fortunate that I'm in the position to be able to do that. But yeah, it's just probably another couple of months of probably inactivity, and then I'm looking at 2026 as being the year where I really, again, just set some really big goals and go really hard towards them in the sense of my own health and the way that I'm dealing with things, and you know, getting on top of my mental health. And I understand that it'll be a really, really slow process, but I'm also understanding that it's something that I can overcome, because it is something that you can solve. You've just got to, like anything else, you just got to put in the time to work through it and not neglect it and put it by the wayside and deal with it tomorrow. It's dealing with it head on, you know, which is something that I definitely want to do. But yeah, I don't know if I've really got too much more. It's been the last 4 months. It's been really quiet. But I do probably need to say thank you. The original video that I put out, there was, I think, over 100,000, 110,000 views on that video. I think it's like the 4th most watched video on my YouTube channel. Strangers that have never come across the channel, never watched me. There's so many messages of support, thousands of messages of support, and that was quite overwhelming to have received that many when I'm used to a video only getting 5,000 to 10,000 views. So I did just want to thank you. If you've reached out to me, I've read it. There's not too many messages I haven't read. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for your support. And again, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because you guys, whether you know it or not, are such a large part of my life. I'm ideating the next video the second this video ends, and then I'm going through the process to script and film and edit and upload. So while you only may see 10 to 15 minutes worth of content, you know, twice a week from me, you know, it's taken me 20 hours to produce those 2 videos for you. So for me, I'm very, very grateful for having you here and clicking on these videos to allow me to keep doing what I'm doing. But yeah, look, life's always going to get in the way, and life is always going to throw some punches at you, but you've just got to remain really positive, understand that everything is a work in progress, and keep chipping away at trying to improve yourself. So hopefully, I know I will, I don't need to say hopefully, I know that I'm enjoying myself over in Fiji. I'll be taking it easy. There won't be any alcohol, but I'll be probably lying by a poolside bed, maybe reading a book and just taking things really, really slow. But I look forward to getting back though and making another video and continuing to educate you guys on how best to sell on eBay and improve your eBay reselling business, because that's my #1 passion, and a little stroke isn't going to get in the way of me helping you guys out. So thanks for being here for this one, guys. Like I said, very different video to normal, but one that I needed to make. So thanks for sticking around and listening to my story, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.